Welcome to the As the Rotors Turn podcast, only on the Cartoon Helicopter Network, with your hosts Diggs, Darkwood, and Streaker6. Let's get to it.
Darkwood, your faithful host. Today we're going to be talking to a couple of the hounds, get some background on them, and just some regular Joes who like to fly helicopters and airplanes and things, and see what they're all about and what their experiences are like. But before we get to our first guest, we have an announcement from our local pipe layer, Darkwood, on a new server and F4 Phantom event. Take it away, Darkwood.
Hey everybody, we got a new server in town. The Catalina Wine Mixer is no longer being hosted on my machine. It's now full-time, 24/7, 365, running all Helo missions, PvP, PvE. We're looking for missions. If you wanna suggest something, we'll put it up on the box maybe if it passes Helo Hounds stats. And the new contest is a custom mission made by myself. If you can retrieve the crate from the center of Gaza and the insurgents that are protecting it, then you win a free, brand new, when-released F4 Phantom. Our first guest tonight, because we had a technical issue with the other guest, is a Mr. Hounds Chaos.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Great to have you, man. Chaos, let's start out with some background. Like we know you playing the game, but what kind of background do you have, and what got you into airframes? At what age? When did you get into flying sims and that kind of thing?
Cool. We'll do, Diggs. Everybody, I'm Chaos. If I've run into you on the battlefield, good to talk to you. Unless I've killed you, sorry. All the way back, I probably knew what a P-51 Mustang was before I knew what a Ford Mustang was. I feel like I spent my entire childhood looking up in the sky. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, so we've got an Air National Guard base here. Lots of planes coming through. We got an Army National Guard unit here that flew Kiowas, which was awesome too. That was kind of my first taste of loving helicopters. All growing up, loved World War II. That's kind of where my aircraft love started. I ate up all the military aircraft history I could. Fast forward a few years, graduated high school, started college, figured out that was not for me at that time. Probably needed a little bit more discipline. Told my dad I was dropping out of college, and he said, "You got to find a full-time job." First thing I did was call the Marine Corps.
Hoorah!
Hoorah!
Called the recruiting office. And the guy started jabbering on about a bunch of different stuff. And I was like, look, I'm telling you, you ain't got to show me no books, no videos, no nothing. I know the history of the Marine Corps, U.S. military history. I want to go in the infantry. I swear I heard the phone fall on the floor, and it wasn't 3 minutes later. This dude was like skidding in the parking lot, dropping papers, running up to my dorm. Fast forward a little bit later on. Made through boot camp. Like I said, signed up infantry. Started out as an 0311, which is the Marine Corps, that's your basic rifleman. Didn't stay in that long. Got orders as soon as I got to the Fleet Marine Corps. to go back to school to be a machine gunner. We were a little short on machine gunners at that time. So went through machine gunner school, went to the fleet, and I actually got sent to a scout platoon in a tank battalion, which for an infantryman wasn't ideal, I thought at first. And a little backstory, the Marine Corps doesn't necessarily have a scout MOS or military occupational specialty like the Army does. The Army has 19 deltas. They're dedicated scouts. They've got a school for that, yada, yada. The Marine Corps, we were just a bunch of machine gunners, some tow gunners, stuff like that. We had Humvees, heavy machine guns. I ended up being a Mark 19 gunner for the most part. Also went back and went to tow school, so I shot tow missiles quite a bit. Ended up taking part in the very initial invasion of Iraq. And when I say initial, like when we landed in Kuwait before the invasion in January of 2003, we landed on the tarmac. They pulled up buses. We all ran on them. They pulled curtains on those things, drove us north for like an hour, and dropped us off in the middle of the desert, and there was nothing there. We had to dig trenches and set up tents, and I mean, yada yada. I was about the 7th or 8th Marine Corps vehicle through the breach into Iraq, and spent the first 6 months of the U.S.-Iraq war doing scout stuff, machine gunner stuff. In terms of aviation, the coolest part of that was we had a flight of 6 Cobras that were attached to our platoon, which was amazing. Those dudes flew everywhere with us, provided close cover. And when I mean close, I mean we had their gun shells raining down on our trucks. Nice. Rockets were hitting, I mean, I can only describe it as ultra danger close, like across the street kind of stuff. Those dudes were awesome. Got to see a lot of 46s and 53s coming in. Unfortunately, doing medevacs and stuff like that. Got to see a lot of really cool naval aircraft. Got to see some of the last F-14s flying missions, which was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. To look up and see Tomcats dropping bombs, man, was awesome. As far as flight sims, I've flown flight sims as long as computers have. I was born in 1981. My dad had a computer, Windows, Microsoft, flight simulator, all that stuff. Keyboard and mouse all the way up through. In recent years, built a PC probably back in 2015, 2016, around then. And honestly started out flying in War Thunder because I loved World War II aircraft. It had the most at the time. Got in with a group flying P-38s. I mean, we were a dedicated P-38 squadron. That's all we did. Really learned a lot about BFM and the history of the P-38 doing that. Kind of graduated from that, fell into DCS, and been doing that ever since. And then probably this whole past year, a little bit before I met you guys, I started flying the Huey and absolutely stinking fell in love with it. I love everything about it. I love it. It's like the closest helicopter for me. I'm not saying for everybody, to like flying a warbird. It's so analog. It's so, the controls feel mushy. Just dig it, man. And I've watched every Vietnam movie out there and documentary, and it just feels like home now. Touched base with you guys. Started flying in Enigma's Cold War server. I love the troop carrying aspect of it, the close air support aspect of it. Doing raids, sneaking into airfields is one of my favorite things. Flying 2 inches off the grass as fast as I can through trees and landing and dropping troops. So yeah, that is chaos in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like something we all like to do with the helos. It's like one of the funnest things about the game. Yeah, is it's like sneaking in through buildings and trees and all that kind of stuff, nice and low. Now let me ask you. You say that Huey is your favorite ride at the moment. What do you think if they ever did come out with the Cobra? Do you think you'd end up transferring to that? Would that become your favorite, or do you think you'd still stay with the Huey?
Man, I would absolutely jump all over that, and I would probably spend as much time as I have in it as the Huey. It'll depend on how it flies and what I can use it for and all that stuff. And I've kind of expanded. I mean, I've got all the helicopter mods now. So I really love everything. You know, everything for me is a different tool in the toolbox. I like it for different things. I can fly the Huey for a while, but if need be, I'll jump in a MI8 or a MI24 or something like that. So yeah, but definitely the Cobra comes out, I'm all over it. New one, old one, I don't care. I love the first gen ones. You know, the AH1s, that 40 millimeter under the chin with a Gatling gun and some rockets, man, all day. I'll be at Hind chasing fool. And let me back up to Call Sign Chaos. I know there's a few more out there, but man, I literally got that from George Mattis. That was his call sign in Iraq, and he's probably one of my heroes.
Nice, very nice.
Any specific reason why you say he's one of your heroes? Just admiration, or anything specific?
Even when I was in the Marine Corps, he was already a legend.
Sure. Was it fair to say he was a Marine?
He was absolutely like, when I think about the history of the Marine Corps, like that dude would have made Chesty Puller proud. Stayed single his whole life. I mean, he dedicated his life to the Marine Corps. He was that dude. I mean, there's a story, you can look it up on Google. You know, it's Christmas Eve. He was the general that would show up when, you know, the lonely lieutenant was on duty and say, "Hey man, go home to your family. I got it."
Nice.
And then,
that's awesome.
Yeah, when we were in Iraq, man, I mean, he knew the sacrifice he was making, sending us forward, and doing a lot of the things we did, but he knew the importance of what we were doing too. You know, we were there for kind of a liberation portion of it, and I think he got the whole scope. And I remember seeing him in Nasiriyah. We had stopped by a bridge there, and him and a few colonels, regimental commanders, they were having a meeting, and this dude takes off walking. I think there's a scene of it in frickin' Generation Kill. I don't remember him, you know, going up on the bridge, but I remember that bridge and that stop and what happened, and then hearing about it later and him basically cussing out his commanders, asking them why we were stopped at a bridge and not pushing. And, you know, I don't know. That was just the epitome of the Marine Corps for me.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. You know, you and I have similar stories in joining the Marines. I as well said, "Oh, give me infantry," even though I was always, I don't know why, when you ask me looking back per se, because I was always interested in aircraft. Oh, I want to do something with flying. Like, you know, if anything, you thought I would have went to the, you know, to the air fleet or something.
Same.
But it was the same thing. Phone dropped, and he was there a couple minutes later. And so I don't know about your experience, but I tell people all the time, especially like young kids, they want to go in there like, "Oh, I want to join the infantry." I tell them, don't do that. If you're going into the Marines, you know, get a job that can make you some money when you get out, if you decide to get out. And that you know, no matter what MOS you take, even if you're a barber, you're still going to be a grunt. You know,
exactly.
Right.
And I'll tell you, kind of counterpoint to that, on the other side of the coin, I got really lucky and fortunate to do a lot of private security when I got out of the Marine Corps. Had I not gone infantry, I probably wouldn't have had as many opportunities to do that. And when I say that, I worked for the State Department in Afghanistan for about 3 years too, doing a lot of stuff over there. And I've had a few kids approach me, and I'm like, you know, if you do want to go infantry, throw your all into it. You know, don't stop at regimental infantry. Go MARSOC, or, you know, look into the Army SF program. That's one of the best, I think, infantry related programs out there, where you can go to 18X program, all that good stuff. Because it opens a lot of doors if you really put your heart into it and go as hard at it as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell, like, I got a couple young nephews that are thinking about, and they're like, "Well, you know, they hear stories, and they're like, you did all this cool, fun stuff, and you got to blow a lot of stuff up." I was 0351, and when I was in, I was still in you know, they still had weapon companies. I was in a weapon company. I was anti-armor, Dragons
and Smalls.
Like, you know, I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of cool stuff, but it's not making me any money. Like, if a tank's coming down the street, I can help you out with that.
Exactly. And yeah, I was the same way, man. My whole family thought I was going to go in the Air Force, do something in aviation. And looking back, I wish I would have pushed myself to join the Air National Guard, honestly, and get into that Kiowa unit that was at the house. Always wanted to go to warrant officer school and go that route. And I really kind of kicked myself for not doing that. But I've had a pretty good career path too. So. And yeah, man, I really appreciate you guys, and y'all have taught me a ton about flying helicopters and killing in helicopters and pushing these things to the limit. So I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you for your service, Chaos.
I always appreciate that. Thanks.
Darkwood or Streaker, follow up?
I was just looking to see if we had any comments from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of looking at. And I also, I'd like to add, I know exactly what Chaos, or what Diggs was touching on, actually, with the, pick a job skill, because ultimately you're infantry in any branch of the service. So if there's any possible way that you can, always pick something for a job skill in there that's going to suit you a little bit better for the civilian side. This is coming from a former Army National Guard recruiter also, so.
Exactly. Papal knows.
Yeah.
So how loud was it, Chaos, when them Cobras had come in? Were they shooting like regular ordnance, like high HE, or was it flechette?
No, they were throwing hydras, man. And I know we sometimes in DCS lose sight of just how effective and devastating those things are. They're not the most accurate. I mean, they're not guided. However, when you're 300 feet off the ground, shooting 100 yards, taking out walls and buildings and bunkers and vehicles, and throwing things through the air with 2 hydra rockets, man, it really shows you what that thing will do. Yeah, it was loud, a little loud. I probably need hearing aids.
So like concussion was pretty good, huh? Like a firework go, like you were launching fireworks off.
Times 10. Yeah. So I mean those impacts, and no kidding. I mean less than 100 yards. When I say danger close, they were directly overhead, 100, 200, 300 feet.
Just hovering above y'all.
That may be in depression or in defilade that we couldn't necessarily see. And sometimes we would call things out for them, and they would push. But a lot of times, I mean, they were doing visual recon for us. If there was something they didn't have a good line of sight on, or something, danger area up ahead of where we were going, stuff like that.
Right.
And then they'd go back and refuel and rearm, and run sorties sun up to sundown. And then at night we'd hunker down, and those dudes would literally land out in a field near us after they had rearmed and refueled and come have chow with us.
Now, were you personally on the radio talking with these fellas?
No. We had a JTAC with us, which was a Marine Corps officer. Yeah, he actually rode with our platoon, talked to those dudes the whole time. And pretty much a lot of us could. We did a lot of that training constantly. But he had all the radios and stuff, and
Sure.
It ended up. I'm glad he was the one doing that, because I was busy Mark 19 and.
Right. So as far as flight simming goes, what's your evolution of flight gear been, and what do you have to say about what you have had or used?
Dude, like I said,
How many credit cards have you maxed out, sir?
I've had a few good lucky breaks over the years and come into some good stuff. Like I said, started out in the 80s with a freaking keyboard, so it's been nothing but up from there. Once I started flying again a few years ago, started out with kind of the typical Thrustmaster T16,000 trillion, whatever that thing is, the orange and black, kind of standard. Mm-hmm. After I broke a couple of those, because I got a little ham-fisted with it, decided I need to invest. And I'm someone, if I'm going to spend a lot of time doing something, I want some quality, buy once, cry once kind of thing, the way we do with, other things in life.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, buy once, cry once, and be done with it.
I've always
So
heard,
I pretty much,
yeah. That's
I've got a
nice.
whole Virpil set up now, plus some WinWing augmentation here. Got the Mongoose base with the Alpha grip, and then I've got the second gen CMT throttle or whatever it's called. I've got one of their panels, and then I've actually got the up front, the WinWing F18 UFC and MFDs, and then I actually use a Razer TARDIS as well as kind of another row of buttons I can assign that I use for all my communication. And I tell
that
you,
would be nice.
Virpil is built like a freaking Russian tank.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's not fair to say though, because Russian tanks get shot pretty easy.
Well,
I mean,
World War
that doesn't
II
mean
Russian tanks.
that doesn't mean they're not built well. They're just getting hit with stuff that can tear them apart. But to say, I mean, I could literally run over my Virpil stuff with a car. I feel like.
You do.
So for me,
you play in VR?
I do. Good question too. I started out with head tracker, worked great, but also as soon as VR was even kind of talked about, I got on a waiting list for the very first generation of Oculus, the CV1s, and I got some of the very first shipments of that, and that was when I was playing War Thunder, and that literally changed everything. Even those screen door effect, everything, I didn't care. I mean, when you feel like you're sitting in a cockpit and you can look around your physical environment and see where you're going, and it just takes it to the whole next level, and it's progressed and it's gotten better, and I can't wait to see where it's going to be in 10 years, and right now I'm on the Quest Pro.
Nice.
Very nice. Yep. That's
Yeah,
that's some
Chris,
good equipment.
I will say, VR is not for the faint-hearted. It is not plug and play, and you will tear your hair out most of the time trying to get it to look as good as you want. But for anybody out there that wants to get into it, just go into it knowing you're going to tweak a lot of things, just change one thing at a time, and you're just going for smoothness with quality. Just find that good balance.
Yeah, I can totally second that. It's and anytime an update comes out, then I find myself spending hours again messing with settings. Can I get it just a little better? Oh, I need a couple more frames.
Yeah,
I learned early on, man. I'd change 10 things in Nvidia control panel and 3 things in Oculus and 20 different things in the game, and then you have no clue what's messed something up.
Right.
And I learned that lesson the hard way multiple times. But yeah, VR is just, it's unbelievable. It tells your brain that this is what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I agree.
There's just nothing like it.
It's like being troned into the game. Like it's the movie Tron, like Tron 3.
And that's why I tell people, I'm like, man, this is literally what I've waited for, like since I was a little kid. This is what we had dreams of. I knew I wasn't going to fly a Huey in real life, but now I can get as close as I'm going to get to it, Same thing with half these planes. I'm never going to get to fly an F-16 or learn how to start an F-14, but I can damn sure get in here and do it.
Yep, exactly.
And
exactly.
Didn't you say, Darkwood, you went up to that dude with the Huey and be like, hey, I can tell you how to start this thing.
Right. Well, one of the people who showed me how to fly the cartoon Huey was the Marine as yourself, 0300 infantry.
Mm-hmm.
He got out. He did I think he did 2 tours in Iraq, if I remember right. Trigg telling me, and was that what it was, Sally, with Jester?
What was that?
When did he do 2 tours over there? Well, it doesn't matter. He got out and he used his GI Bill money to go to get his helicopter license.
Yeah,
Nice.
And he was flying Hueys, putting out fires, and he gave
Wow.
me. He actually gave Sally instruction, and I rode along with him.
Really?
And,
wow.
Dude's like cool as a cucumber, man. He said every 5 minutes he's looking for a place to land.
Exactly. I was going to say, man, I flew in real life for a while too. And yeah, that is the very first thing you do is everywhere you go, can I land there? Can I land there? Can I land there?
It was funny because Sally, he was real serious, wasn't he, Sally? And he's like, he goes, okay, give me control of the helicopter, and Sally gave him control, and then he crashed it, and then it got all quiet, and Sally was like, well, I could have done that. And dude didn't bet an eye from that, man. He was just super serious and all business, man. You could tell he's real about that shit. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I spent a little time flying, light aircraft, and we've got that's one cool thing about where I live. We got a ton of grass airfields around here, so I actually got to learn flying on grass and flew some tail draggers and Cessna 150 Aerobat, which was really cool because it weighs as much as a tissue box, and you can flip it over and loop it.
is that like a Piper Cub?
I've flown, Piper Cub, Champ, Champ, stuff like that. Now, Cessna 150 is a little trike gear. It's the smallest little Cessna they make, just about. When there's two people in it, you're sitting shoulder to shoulder. But the Aerobat model is reinforced. And you could literally, you could roll it, you could do loops with it, all sorts of stuff. And we called that, training for unusual attitudes, because it wasn't necessarily sanctioned. But yeah.
Right. How has 2.9 update affected you?
Man, for me, it's like a lot of the others. I haven't gotten a lot of improvement from it, and it's just been tweaking again to just get everything to run great for me. It's like I'll have some solid performance for several months, and then something like this will come along, and it doesn't do a whole lot for me. If it does for other people, that's cool. It just goes back and forth. Multi-threading works cool for a few days, then I get some stuttering for no reason. I'm really meticulous and OCD with everything that's going on in my system background-wise. So DCS is one of the only things on my freaking computer. I use it for nothing else. So I'm really in tune with what changes are going on. And yeah, it's neither here nor there for me. I'm still flying. I tweak it and kind of just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, that's like the nice version. Here to give the extremely opposite version of that is the people's villain, Cold Claws himself, ladies and gentlemen. Cold Claws, are you there?
Before he jumps on,
I think we've lost connection with Cold Claws.
Boy, I had you muted for a minute.
I really appreciate you guys having me on. I'm going to have to bounce, but I really appreciate you guys being.
Oh heck yeah, we love.
Oh yeah, Chaos. We appreciate you being on, man.
And we love
thanks
flying
for thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself with everybody, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, you too, Diggs. Y'all take care.
Bye now.
Hell yeah, man.
So I see Cold Claws typing in a chat, saying hello. It seems like maybe there is some audio issue with him. Let's try bringing him up again. See if he's ready.
I think he's restarting his Discord.
Yeah, I'm having a feeling I have audio issues again. Am I coming through this time?
I hear you just fine.
Okay.
No, hold on.
I bet if he was your missile at me, he'd be here.
Yeah, right. You're coming in loud and clear on the YouTube stream, man.
Roger, Dodger. As long as I'm coming through loud and clear on here, also.
Well, while we're waiting for Cold Claws to get
we will pull that back out of there.
Oh, he's here. Hold on. My bad, Cold Claws. I had the audience. There's your invite, sir. The people's villain.
There he is.
Nice. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Ah, there he
Ladies and
is.
gentlemen, the people's villain.
Hey, sorry about that.
So, what's going on this week?
Well, yeah, you've mentioned 2.9, and yeah, I'm still triggered over that. It's because again, when we play on Enigma server, which is the most demanding server in the game, and it's just still the same as before, constant stuttering, and it's just the same. It's just the same as before as always. So, and honestly, I do play this game way too much, but I have been playing a little less than usually. So instead of 20 hours a week, I only play 15 hours a week. But anyway, I talked about that last week. I'm surprised no one's mentioned the F4 on this podcast. because I thought we talked about so I'm going to mention that because it's DCS related. My biggest gripe with it is, I mean, I'm obviously excited for it, and I pre-ordered it. Like, I pre-ordered it during the trailer, and it's prone to be a very important module. But unfortunately, I feel like for the Enigma's scene, it's just going to be another fancy airquake module. Because if you want to kill ground targets, the A10 will just be more effective. Which is why personally I think they should remove the A10 and the Su-25 for that matter, because they're a lot more modern than everything else on the server, and you actually have a reason to learn the F4 for its multi-role purpose. But that'll never happen. But I just wanted to rant that. And this is a helicopter podcast, and I actually do have some helicopter stuff to mention. That the Shadow Trophy race is happening, and I am terrible at it. I'm trying to fly the hip. I am beyond awful at it. Like, if I go on the Shadow Trophy results, like, for one thing, it took me like 20 tries to actually complete the course the first time. Kept sending my rotors into the tower thingies. I'm like 11th out of 19 people, so it's not looking good. And I'm 30 seconds lower than first place, so I don't know. It's honestly kind of refreshing to see, because I feel like the skill floor of DCS is very low, but I see these people who have obviously been flying helicopters in DCS for years, and they are really talented. Like, the number one is like 30 seconds faster than me, and I think I'm pretty good in PvP. But when it comes to like racing, I guess racing helicopters actually takes skill. Racing helicopters actually takes skill on like just firing missiles at unsuspecting people who are already engaged in fights. So, I mean, so there's that. So, but I guess it's a little kind of ironic for me talking about skill when, I mean, I suck. Oh, another thing, the Corsair was mentioned. They're Leatherneck or Mag 3. They're both called by that. They posted a newsletter saying they're almost done with the Corsair, the World War II Corsair, not the other one, not the Cold War Corsair. You know, the one with
the Corsair.
Yeah, the Corsair. They're like almost done with it, so that's gonna be really. I mean, it's exciting because not for the Corsair, because unfortunately I don't really care, because World War II and DCS is kind of like because there's no like Japanese like planes to fight. But Leatherneck also made they actually made the MiG-21, and after they finish the Corsair, they're gonna update the MiG-21, my favorite module. It's like flying in the background right now, which should be good because the MiG-21 has a lot of like issues that well, I do enjoy abusing. I do enjoy abusing the MiG-21's problems. Its damage model is fun to abuse. Its flight model is fun to abuse. Its radar is a little too powerful. It's all very fun to abuse. And hopefully when they update it, they'll fix it. But although I can't wait to, like, I mean, I don't know. When they fix it, I won't be able to rely on my crutches on my crutch plane anymore. But that's the price of flying a simulator. So
how's it been? How's it been in Enigmas?
I forgot to mention. Right now, they're currently doing an event on the server. It's called the PVO event, which is like the Soviet, it's like a PV. How do you say it? It's like Войска противовоздушной обороны. Like it's the Soviet Air Defense Forces. So it's based on like AI B-52s like keep spawning, and it's Blue's job in F-14s to protect them, and in the red team, our MiGs, we have to intercept them. So I've been playing that all day. It's okay. I think it's better than the previous Korean War event because the Saber is a disaster of a module, which I could have ranted about that. But I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's okay events. I've killed a few F-14s. I killed an F-15 in my little MiG-21, which, as OP as it is, it's the teen American fighters still dunk on it. But I guess if you use in mountains and notch, you can still own them. But Enigmas has like overall just been kind of a mess to play, and especially flying helicopters on there, it's just a suicide mission because you have to fly low or you just die, and flying low with the constant stutters is just kind of really disgusting. Oh, and I also want to. This isn't DCS related, but I kind of got triggered over this when I think it was Darkwood. Like earlier in the podcast mentioned that like Russian tanks are like garbage, which that kind of triggered me. Because what triggered me is when he said I don't know if it was him, but one of you all said that the T-34 was like the best tank, when in reality of all the Russian tanks, the T-34 was by far the worst one. Because in World War II, I think like 80% of them were lost in combat, and in the Korean War, it was like a similar number. And also there was the T-62, which is like the T-62A, which it was like introduced in 1961. That tank was actually ahead of its time and was the best in the world at the time because it was the first tank to be mass produced with composite armor. So, I mean, the Americans were the first ones to have composite armor. I don't know what composite armor is. I guess it's some crap tanks use, but the T-62 was the first tank to be mass produced with composite armor. So it kind of makes it ahead of its time, and it was a really good tank for its time. So anyway,
well,
I just want to clear that up.
Actually,
and to clear up what I was saying, I'm American, so we have A-10s, so that makes every tank garbage that's against it.
well, and the reason the Germans invented the Panther and the Tiger tank is because of the T-34 and KV-1. FYI, they couldn't penetrate. They couldn't penetrate otherwise.
Hell yeah, it was a good rant this week. Claus.
Thank you. I try.
Good update on the Enigma. And before you go, man, are you going to try out the Catalina wine mixer server at all?
Yeah, I will. I've currently been grinding the PVO event on Enigmas because like it's a competitive event, blue versus red. It's a change of pace, like actual like competition instead of just like endless campaigns that aren't like counted in wins. So I kind of want to really like work hard for this specific event because it'll probably be recorded, unlike the campaigns for the past year, if that makes sense.
Right.
All right, everybody. That's the Cold Claws report, the people's villain, and his hot to trot MiG-21 there.
And
thank you, Cold Claws. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
As always.
Welcome to the As the Rotors Turn podcast.
Before we bring up our next guest, Mr. Sally, I just wanted to reiterate and maybe hear from Darkwood here that the Catalina Wine Mixer is the name of the server, and Darkwood is running a special mission on there where you got to go rescue a crate from the middle of a city. But good luck, I guess, is the best way to put it. Darkwood, you want to say anything more about that, like dates, like when you're going to have it running or anything? Or
well, I'm looking at my calendar right now. We were shooting for the 18th of November.
Well,
we're supposed to. Originally was the 18th, but since we're doing a podcast that day, we want to have plenty of time allotted for everybody to participate in the mission. So we're going to do it November 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to run that to midnight.
Okay, and to win the F4, is that the only time they got that date and that time frame, or is this going
well, if nobody would, what? If by chance nobody's successful in retrieving the crate at that time, then we will run it another time. We'll run it again. We'll run it back. Probably a week later. We'll do a week later.
All right, so everybody, again, Catalina Wine Mixer, November 17th, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, will be a special event where you got to rescue a crate, the middle of a city, and if you are successful in rescuing that crate and bringing it back, you will win a brand new F4 Phantom in DCS. With that, let's say hello to our next Hound meet and greet, Mr. Sally. Sally, how are you, sir?
I am great. How are you guys doing?
Good. Glad you
You're good.
make it. So, Sally, kind of like we did with Chaos there, can you just maybe give us a little background on yourself and how you got into airplanes, helos, and then eventually flight simming?
Man, it goes back many moons. My father was in the Air Force. He flew 141s, 130s, was an instructor. I've always been around aviation. I was on my grandpa's farm, and I want to do the farming thing. Man. Every time an airplane flew over, I was always looking up, and he says, maybe you might want to just go into aviation. I said, okay. So in high school, everything was about aviation. Joined the Navy pretty young, sailed the seas. I was ship's company on the USS New Orleans, LPH-11. Had helos on it. Absolutely hated helos because they're just helos. Now that's all I fly here on DCS is helos. So it's kind of a funny way that happens. It's just flying the helos, the Huey is just so a hands-on aircraft that you have to fly. But got my A&P license in '97, so I've been licensed since '97. I now work at Boeing, not as a Boeing manager. I'm an avionics technician. We take the brand new 737 MAX right from the factory, and we put fuel, we oil it, and we basically test the entire system of the aircraft. And being the avionics guy, we test the communication, satellite comms. We do the autopilots, the flight recorder. Flight recorder is a really big test where we test basically every single switch in the flight deck. When you're watching those TV shows about crash investigation, how they set up the simulator to represent the configuration of the aircraft as it crashed. That's because each switch has a 1 or a 0 or a certain number assigned to it, and if it's in one position, it's a 1. Another position, it's a 0. Right? Binary code. It's 1s and 0s. So you can actually set up an aircraft as it crashed because the flight recorder, the black box, which is actually your Hunter Orange, is in the back of the tail, which is where the least amount of damage happens in a crash. Certain crashes. So we test every single switch to make sure the switch does what it's supposed to be and make sure that the airplane knows what it is, where it is, and what it's supposed to be doing, actually. The computer systems on the Max are absolutely phenomenal. I prefer working on Warbirds because there's less computers, less interior, and less people. But like I said, I got my license in '97. I worked for Raytheon underneath the composites of the Premier and was getting my pilot's license and saw a T6 flying around, and I couldn't fly the airplane anymore because I was too enthralled with this word. And when I got done flying, I went down to where it was and was actually hired as a flight line mechanic for it. And I did a crew chief gig with the T6, went to many air shows with it, absolutely loved it. And at that time, I was also playing Aces High. This is 23 years ago, I believe it was. I was playing Aces High. Met this pretty cool dude. His name is Darkwood, actually. And we've been friends since then. And he actually brought me back, what was it, 3 years ago? 4 years ago? I had quit flying, and he was like, come on, man, let's go fly. So we started flying again on Aces High, and well, we're here now on DCS exclusively for me because I don't fly Aces High anymore. I found a really great group called 16AGR with Darkwood, and had some success with them playing. And Taco taught me how to fly the Helo, along with some instructions with Darkwood because he has more time to fly than I do. And then we kind of separated from them, and we found this awesome group called the Hounds with some really great people. Became friends with them. Got on this guy's Discord called Side Room Games. A guy named Diggs, who happens to be with us. And then it's just a bunch
Excuse
of
me.
friends that... Yeah, go ahead.
No, I burped. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Oh, right, okay. So just a bunch of guys having fun, having a great time. My biggest thing about the Navy was I was involved with Blackhawk Down. We got diverted. We had to go over there. And while the military was pulling out, we were blowing things up. So I know it's back and forth here and there, but that's just kind of how my thought process works. Absolutely love being here. I enjoy the group that I'm with. We have a great time. Many times I've just crashed because I'm laughing so hard at the crap that comes out of our mouth. And it's a good thing when you get on a bunch of people and everybody's willing to help, especially when I had my computer issues and everyone's like, try this, try that, try this, try that, and I have to because I don't know crap about computers. So it's good to find a good squad to be with that you guys always keep in contact with and figure out what's going on and how each other's doing. It's a really good platform to be with. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We love having all you guys around too. I mean, you guys are what make us grow. It's our community that makes the Hounds worth being around for.
Oh, definitely.
So how long have you been super sneaky?
Now, where did you learn your sneakiness?
I learned that from Darkwood because he's so good that I don't consider myself good, so I have to be good in a different way, if you know what I mean. And
Sure.
Sneaky, no one really is anticipating somebody to be sneaky.
Well, I mean, I've been watching Big Ten football my whole life, so I'm used to a fake punt.
Right.
But you're beyond that. You're at a whole other level of sneakiness than that.
Well, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
So you want to explain to the audience here how you came to be known as the Mig Assassin?
No. Let's just say he found out. We were
Yeah,
it
how
was
did you get that super cool skin?
oh god, you need to talk to the Hounds HMFIC Streaker 6. It was Darkwood, Streaker, and I. We were flying helos. We were basically, just having fun. And this MiG was coming down at us, and he was shooting back up. And I got tired of him shooting at us enough, so I basically stopped my Huey on a dime, turned around, and fired every single rocket I had. I didn't see it. Darkwood saw it, and he saw it on the message. I think he took a screenshot, or he was recording the screenshot or something like that, but there's no actual footage of me killing a MiG-29.
Yeah, which sucks. I had a technical error. I think I accidentally deleted that footage when I was trying to make space in my video drive, thinking it was a different set of footage. Okay, continue on, please. Sorry.
So no, anyway, he had come down at the right time, and I hit my left rudder, left collective, hit my stick, pulled on the collective. He was right there. I fired. Just so happened I got him, and I've been the MiG Assassin ever since.
Yeah.
It was a lucky shot. I just happened to see.
But it's just a one plane though, right?
Let's specify.
No, it's not just one plane, but it was a MiG-29.
That's what I was just going to say. We need to specify what kind of MiG it was, and that was a 29.
Somebody lost points.
Sally, can you talk to us a little bit about your evolution of flight gear? What kind of gear you on now? What did you start with? Any likes or dislikes of any of them?
Oh my god. I started off with basically the Atari joysticks. And we all know how those lasted. I forget what I sent. I had a friend from another squad from ASUS High that I sent him my stick. I forget what it was, but it was the combination.
Delo, and you sent him an X52 SciTech.
Right, X52 SciTech, which was at the time was the hottest, latest, and greatest at the time. And so I had quit flying for quite a few years. I lost interest. You know, life takes its turns, and there's more important things to do than sit around and play a video game. And then when Darkwood brought me back, I'm like, I plugged in the X52. It worked. I had the pedals. I had the CH Pro pedals. It worked. And it was just, I just felt like I was lagging behind. And unfortunately, it was the computer, not the controls that I had. So working at Boeing, you know, I make a little bit more money than I did when I first started flying. So I ended up buying the WinWing Super Taurus F-18 throttle and startup panel. It's absolutely the most fun piece of equipment that I fly with. Unfortunately, I fly virtual reality now, so I don't get to see the panel and all the lights and the switches. And
I will second both those statements because I as well use that same panel, and in VR I do miss out on all the pretty lights.
Yes. And what I actually like about this panel is that these switches that are on it feel exactly like the same switches that I switch every single day in the flight deck of the 737 MAX by Boeing. It is just an amazing piece of equipment. It's easy to plug and play. The throttles are actually Boeing F-18 throttle models. If you get on,
really,
oh yeah. All the buttons are the same. It feels the same. I'm sitting there playing with it as I'm talking to you. This is really cool, guys. I mean, there's plenty of buttons. There's probably more buttons than I know what to deal with and or either program. That's why I have you guys, because you guys always help me. But my stick is the Thrustmaster F-18 because it feels absolutely real. It's the HOTAS add-on grip that you can get from Thrustmaster, but I have a Virpil base. Because there's in the WinWing throttle and in the Virpil base, there's no moving parts that actually touch, so there's nothing to wear out. This equipment is going to last and far beyond me. There's all kinds of mods you can do with them, as in your resistance that you feel, the ramps, the stiffness. I think that'll go with the way that it feels. But it's just absolute joy to play with the Thrustmaster F-18 stick with the Virpil base, and having, of course, the WinWing Super Taurus F-18 throttle base and startup panel. And I do have the Thrustmaster TPR rudder pedals, because they're just like rudder pedals in a real airplane. So I learned how to fly with them. Hey, might as well stick with them. So, and my latest piece of equipment that I bought was the Next Level Racing flight sim that I got. It's new to me.
Oh, like the play seat?
Yes. So
okay.
It's like I've actually got the seat that's actually in a fighter per se. The guy was selling it used, so I bought it, and I've had it's increased my not increased my flying ability. It's increased my ability to live longer while I'm flying. But Darkwood's Catalina winemaker, his server, when he does the racing, that has really increased my ability to fly the helicopters that I fly. And I fly 99.9% of the time in a Huey, because one, I think I'm pretty good at it. I can hover, I can land, I can hot land it. Of course, I crash it a lot because I do things that most people probably wouldn't do. But it's me, it's Sally. So I crash a lot, I die a lot. I'm used to it. I highly recommend people to go out to Darkwood's Catalina Wine Mixer server and play that game. I haven't played it yet, but I can't wait to. I heard it's going to be awesome. So, that's just Sally in a nutshell.
I agree with the Helo races increased my skill level exponentially. I don't know why, but it's just different. You end up doing different maneuvers and handling than you would, say, on a PvP server. You end up
Absolutely.
doing
You can
stuff.
fly over trees all day long. You can fly in between them and stuff like that. But when you're racing, you've got the terrain to deal with, the trees to deal with, other helicopters to deal with. You even got bad guys trying to shoot you having to deal with that.
Yeah, totally agree. You said you work at Boeing. What's the thing you like most about that job? And what's the thing you dislike the most about that job?
What I love about my job is that I get to play with a brand new aircraft, brand new out of the factory. I worked on a lot of warbirds, like I said before, and it's a warbird, right? There's no creature comforts in warbirds, and with the Max, it's all about visuality and flight crew. What's that called? Their movements. There's a fancy word for it, but anyway,
like feng shui or something, or
nope. It has nothing to do with feng shui. It's their movements and how fast they can move a lever or flip a switch. Ergonomics. That's the word.
Yeah, I was just gonna say ergonomics.
Yeah, ergonomics. And so when I was on the P8 Poseidon, that's the NG, the next generation 737 from the classic. It's got these really small screens. Well, there's 6 of them. Well, in the Max, there's these really big screens, and there's 4 of them. And then I go back to the P8 and I work on it. I'm like, my God, how can they even fly this thing with these little tiny screens? It's like going from a 67-inch TV to, what's that, 12 by 12 monitor? And it's just like, there's no way that this actually works. But I absolutely love working on the airplanes, and I work on the airplane as if I'm getting ready to put my own family on it. When I used to work line maintenance in San Antonio, like I said, I work on the aircraft as if myself and my family are getting on it. And I've downed the aircraft because I didn't know enough and I didn't trust it enough. And so, yeah, they lost revenue. People had to get different flights. Sorry, I apologize for that. But I didn't know enough to get a warm fuzzy and a good feeling about it. So it was a cracked window. And you can actually fly the airplane with a cracked window below 10,000 feet. Now that I know that, the worst thing I hate about Boeing is it would have to be it's gone from an engineering company to a profit company, and you can tell it's no longer about the product. It's about how much product they can get out and for the money. I started in 2007. Sadly, if you've ever had that job where you couldn't wait to get to and you absolutely didn't want to leave until a job was done, regardless of the time of day, that's the way it was for me. I absolutely loved it. And now it's a chore to go to work. Can't wait for the time clock to end so we can go home and get out of there, because it's really disappointing. It's really upsetting to see what it was, to see what it has become. And they don't realize that it's a completely different environment now from when I was hired. They took our pension away. They took our raises away. And it's just, everything's a takeaway. And then they want to know why people don't want to be there. So they're hiring people right out of A&P school to do A&P work. Well, you used to have to show minimum of 10 years experience to be on the flight line. So now we got kids coming right out of school that's never even touched a tool because they were doing the COVID A&P school, which is no hands-on because you weren't in a classroom. And then they want to know why they don't know what they're doing. And it's just frustrating because I used to run my own hangar, and you know, if you get the right 10 guys, you can accomplish anything. And they have all these people, and nothing's changed, and they just think you can throw more people at it. And it's sad. So there's my rant for Boeing. But I love my job.
Right? Well, and you know, all jobs are very similar to that discussion that you had about you know, throwing more people at it, and you know, and new guys and all that. So, you know, people like you need to take the new guys under your wing, which I'm sure you do. But that all takes time also, so.
Right. Well, you're also dealing with people who actually don't want to work. They're the phone people. They'd rather look at their phone than look at the airplane. So
The phone people. He called them the phone people.
The phone people.
Do we got any peanut gallery questions?
Raise your hand if
Anyone?
you do.
Anyone? Captain Trips? Should we bring Captain Trips up for a Helo Op server update, mission update? What do you think?
Yeah, why not?
If he's up for it. Appreciate you taking the time out, Sally.
Yeah.
What?
Thanks for taking the time to do this, and thanks for your service in the Navy.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys, and thanks for everybody who's watching the streams when you guys go live. The guys really appreciate the streams and the follows. They don't do this just because they're bored. They do this because they want you to see what you too can do. So I'm glad to be here. I'll always be here with you guys, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, now get the hell out.
Get the hell out of here. We'll meet you.
Go back to rearranging the furniture on the Titanic.
There you go. Absolutely worthless.
and we'll meet you in a multiplayer server shortly.
Right? Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I had a good time.
You bet. All right. Well, what do you guys think? I think that kind of wraps up the show for this evening. How about you, Diggs and Darkwood?
Yeah, we got a lot of info on Chaos, man. A lot more than I already knew.
Oh yeah, and on Sally for myself on both of them, you know. So
yeah, and and the Cold Claws report was good to go as always.
Good as usual. Yep, very well presented. Love having
sorry
Claws
sorry he was triggered by my tank comment. I mean, if you've ever seen the crew of a T-90 or a T-80, they're crammed in there like sardines, man. They don't have any kind of free space.
This is a true statement. This is a very true statement. That's yeah. Tank crews, that would be horrible in my opinion, being a tank crew.
That's what I was basing my comments on, was that and a couple of, other than, A10 bullets go right through them.
Yes.
Yeah, so good off the cuff, me and a couple of the Helo Hounds podcasts. Before we wrap it up, I want to reiterate a couple things real quick. November 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern, the Jesus Christ, I can't speak. Catalina Wine Mixer server. Darkwood is running a special event where you got to save the crate. If you can get the crate out of the city and back home, you will win a brand new pre-order F4 Phantom. Other than that, I want to bring your attention to our next podcast that's going to be going on November 18th. I'm super excited about this one coming up. With the F4 Phantom hype coming out, we have secured an actual F4 Phantom pilot. For interview, yeah, we'll be talking to him, getting the ins and outs of the real F4 and the pilot experience, and that will be November 18th at 7 p.m. That's all I
Nice.
got to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
Right.
So thanks again, everybody, for joining our little nerd talk here. It's always a good time. Come meet us in the Catalina wine mixer, or meet us in the Discord if you're interested in hooking up and having some good times, and we'll go fly. Other than that, have a great evening.
I like that nerd talk.